But first, we're going to hear from some stories about how our culture has been shaped by and shaped engineering students of the past. So please help me welcome Johan Thornton to the stage to help share some of his memories.
Hey everyone, so I'm Yo. I used to go to school here. And
Don't you still?
so today I thought I would share and maybe inspire some of you of the things that are possible with your UBC engineering education. The way we're going to do it is talking about making the most of your UBC engineering education in the fields of leadership, being daring, and being self-expressive. And then we're going to explore doing that in the fields of school, work, and then how to do it to the extreme. All right, so let's just jump in. So how do you show leadership in school? So there's a bunch of opportunities, but the most obvious one is to get involved with the EOS and clubs. So here's a picture of me in first year. So this is the inside of the slipstick. So that's me on the bass drum. And then, only 12 years later, I'm the EOS president. I took some time off in between. So there's lots of opportunities to practice your leadership while you're at school. It's everywhere. So then how do you be daring at school? So for this part, I had my choices of what stories to tell. I could have told a story of getting handcuffed in the steam tunnels by the cops, or the time that we chained a sheep to the radiator of Dean Axel Meisen's office. But instead, I thought I'd talk about the leap of faith, fire breathing, and the time that I fell off the top of Buchanan Tower. Okay, so the leap of faith, this started, we were on the roof of CME, and then we were having a discussion on what's the fastest way to get off the roof if you really have to get off the roof quickly, like there's cops or something. You don't want to go inside. So there's that tree right there. And so to demonstrate how the leap of faith works, I have a free body diagram. So the tree is in green, the engineer is in red, and you can see that the engineer is in equilibrium right now. Equal force up and down. So what you do is you grab onto the branch and you jump off, and then the idea is that the lower branches slow you down. So you can see in the force diagram here that the branch is able to exert a diagonal force along its length, but you still have a net downward force because of gravity. So you go downwards and then a little bit towards the tree. And then the branches will slow you down, but not that much. There's still very, very much a net acceleration downward. And then you reach the bottom, and then you reach equilibrium again. No motion, no net acceleration. So you go up. Yeah, so we did this one time, and then we just kept doing it on Friday nights. And it went remarkably well until, I don't know if anybody remembers Pat Ebert. Yeah, there were some injuries after a while, but most people were able to do this. All right, so then moving on to fire breathing. So I don't know if they do it anymore, but the foresters used to tar and feather the cairn, and so one way to get rid of the tar is to get a fire permit, and then the fire department will come and burn off the tar. So another way to do it is to not get a fire permit, and then drench the cairn in gasoline, and then ignite it with fire breathing. So I ran a fire breathing school for a while on Friday nights, which is maybe not one of my better ideas. All right, so moving on to falling off the top of Buchanan Tower. So I did fall off the top of Buchanan Tower, but luckily I landed on the second highest part. So there's a there's a conduit pipe to some sort of antenna or measuring thing, and I climbed up it many, many times. And then one time I was on the top and I decided to go down. So it wasn't raining, but it had rained, and the pipe was actually wet. So the moment I grabbed on it to try and go down, I started slipping. And so I thought, okay, well, I better hold on to try and decelerate. But then, sliding down, I remembered that there's a flange connecting two 10-foot pieces of pipe halfway up. So then I'm sliding down, and then of course I let go, and then I fall the rest of the way. And I land, roll backwards, absorb the shock. It was fine. I burst into laughter immediately, and so did my two friends up at the top. Okay, so how do you be self-expressive as a UBC engineer at school? Can anyone guess? Who wants to guess the best way? What's your best opportunity to be self-expressive while at school as a UBC engineer? Okay, so the answer, of course, is stunts. So 2 years before I started UBC Engineering, they installed these lights for Expo 86, and I thought it'd be fun to blink them in Morse code. And so the way I did that was went to the bridge, followed the cables, found out that the cables went down to the counterweight on the north side. I didn't have climbing gear or ropes or anything, so there was just the two of us in second gear. So we climbed down, followed the cables. I estimate it's about 500 amps, so I didn't want to switch that myself. So I decided to use their relay that switches it on and off at dusk and dawn. So I found the circuit that did that, and then built another circuit that blinked in Morse code. UBC engineers do it again.
I remember it well.
And then, so I brought these two. There was a bunch of press about the UBC engineers, but I do want to just read one section of this one. So both Popular Science and Maclean's decided for some reason to interview me. And I just pointed out, the stunts are also like advertisements for the faculty. They say, hire a UBC engineer. So these will be over by the slipsticks over there if you want to flip through them. Okay, so now, you've left school, you're at work. How can you still be a UBC engineer? How do you show leadership at work? So one way, of course, is regular management, you rise to the top. So another way, it's not for everyone, but it's being an entrepreneur. So that's you showing leadership to your own ideas and following through on that. And my path to being an entrepreneur was through the Western Engineering Competition. So I entered WEC 3 times, and twice I got first place in the entrepreneurial division. The second one was for something that some of you are familiar with, Instabeer. So who here, by show of hands, has ever had an Instabeer account? Okay, not bad, not bad. So Instabeer was a computer that you fit it in parallel to the coin mechanism on your beer vending machine. And we decided to enter it into the Western Engineering Competition. We talked about it, and then suddenly it was the weekend before the competition, and we hadn't started yet. So then it's a Friday night, so we grabbed 2 cases of beer, headed up to the 3rd floor of McLeod, and started building. So this is me and my friend Martin. And then by Saturday, we had the basic single board computer running. It was a 6502. We basically built a VIC-20. It had 2K of RAM, which I just found out is exactly the same amount of RAM that was on the Apollo guidance computer. And then by Sunday, I had version 1 of the software all running. We decided to test it for a week, so we had limited sign up for beta testing. So we got a bunch of people signing up immediately. I think it was mostly frat guys. And well, we were afraid to take people's money, right? Like, what if we lose track, right? So we took it to WEC in Edmonton, got first place, brought it back, figured that 1 week of beta testing was plenty, and then we installed it. We decided that in order to get an Instabeer account, you had to be an EE Club member. So that year we had a record number of EE Club members. We had every single EUS exec, every single club president, all 5 of the AMS council members, and then anybody and anyone wanted to get an Instabeer account. It's so much easier than carrying around quarters. Now, so you're building a beer computer that's going to be installed, and so many of you are wondering, did I put in a back door? Of course I did. And I didn't even talk about it for many, many years, but eventually I talked about it. The backdoor passcode is 12 digits long, and I estimated that it would take 300 billion years to hack it, brute force. Okay, so how do you be daring at work? So when you're at work and you have a project that you're really proud of, and you're really happy about it, you should leave your signature on it. Whatever you can get away with. So in my case, I took some time off in the middle of my engineering and I did video game work. And so of course I put Easter eggs into my gigs. So the thing is, you can't do this anymore. There's things like code review and stuff. But there wasn't anything. I was like literally responsible for delivering to Nintendo the 256K binary. So I could put whatever I wanted in there. So I put in my face. I put in my girlfriend at the time. So Evie was, among other things, first vice, EUS. Now, some of you may wonder, how is it that I could get 16 levels of gray on a Game Boy? Anyone wondering that? Okay, so 16 levels of gray. So to the right you can see what Game Boy graphics normally look like. So how did I do that? So I took advantage of the fact that the LCD on the Game Boy has a very long persistence time. So I was able to smear it by moving the image in an hourglass shape, and it pulls out 16 images of gray. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this is probably the best photo that has ever been shown on a Game Boy technology. I like to go into something and then get the most out of whatever is there. So that's what it looks like normally, and there's my friend Martin, stuck inside the Game Boy. So around this time I went to the Cheese, and I was selling Easter eggs to friends for a case of beer. So Mike Highlands, where's Mike? Yeah, good investment of a case of beer. So at the time, I didn't think that I would have this game on my phone later, like when I wrote it. I was like, well, I'm gonna put this in, it's gonna be there forever. But I did not think, even as a futurist, I didn't think that I would play it on my phone. And Rob McKay was the other one who invested in that. So, because I was in the middle of my engineering degree, I still consider myself a UBC engineer, so I put in some other messages, because UBC engineers do rule the world. And because engineers are known for putting Volkswagens in strange places, I also put in a Volkswagen. All right, so by show of hands, who here is an electrical? Yeah. Okay, so we had sort of the construction revolution and Greeks and Romans, and then the civils were able to shine there. And then we had the industrial revolution, and that's where mechs were just amazing. Thanks, mechs. And then we invented the transistor, and we suddenly got the internet revolution. And so, in honor of electrical engineers, I made a super EE Volkswagen because EERTW.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know who you are. Okay, so just moving through this, the next game was this one, and then my girlfriend at the time was Renee Beck. She was EUS social coordinator from 95 to 98. And again, if you look on your right, that's what normal Super Nintendo graphics looks like. I was able to squeeze this out, and again, I think this is the best photo that's ever been in a Super Nintendo cartridge. So for my next game was for the Sega Saturn, PlayStation, and Windows 95. I decided instead of just putting a picture of what it looks like it in, so normally the game is a maze game like this, but as an Easter egg, there's a racing game. We race your red Volkswagen against science. So I didn't have enough memory to make a separate science car, so it's just like a blue version with an E. All right. So how do you do self-expression at work as a UBC engineer? There's a number of ways, but the most important thing is to oh man, I totally forgot. Yeah, so a good engineer wears many hats. And when I was writing the Wayne's World game, I didn't realize at the time that it was going to be like an iconic culture thing that endures, and I didn't realize that the Game Boy platform would also be part of culture like that. So it was an interesting intersection of crossing the original Game Boy and Wayne's World. So it was an amazing opportunity to have that. Okay, so self-expression at work. So what you do is you be yourself at work. Don't do work that you don't want to do. If you're a contractor, don't take that contract. Wait for the next contract. If you have job opportunities, say no. There's other things that I'd rather do. So for me, I was able to do some contracts with architectural LED installations. So I was able to take my love for LEDs and making interactive sculptures and different things in an architectural setting. So I don't know if you guys know this, but anytime in Vancouver that a building gets a building permit, they have to have an interactive art component to it. It could be as simple as a plaza, but it really needs to be more. So I've been working with some artists and doing the engineering on this one. So does anybody know Conway's Game of Life? Yeah? Okay, so this installation had a camera, a Raspberry Pi, and then a button, and about 1,000 LEDs in the ceiling. And so then the camera records what happens, and if you press the button, it turns that into the starting pattern for the Game of Life. And this is at Drake and Howe. All right, so this is the good color. So how, as a UBC engineer, do you show leadership to the extreme? So the way to do that is to find your passion, find like-minded people, use your leadership, and use your engineering skills in that. So the way I'm going to show that today is a few engineers discovered rapids tubing. So you know whitewater rafting. So we decided to do it on tubes instead. And they're not as stable. So then we invented this technology that we call molecules. And so what you do is you put a strap around your tube and hook it to other tubes, and you make this molecule. But the important thing is, what kind of carabiner do you use? You don't use a tiny one that will just break. You also don't use a big one. You want a medium carabiner. Because if your molecule hits a rock straight on, half your molecule is on one side, half is on the other side, there's no way to get out of that with that kind of waterfall. So we designed breakaway carabiners for molecules. Another technology that's on display here, so many people who go tubing on a river, they'll just drag their beers in a bag. But then rapidly your ice cold beer becomes river temperature, which is not cold. So you can sort of see the blue things are containers full of ice, and they're strapped onto the tube. And the first time we got to the bottom of the river and we still had ice cold beer, that was amazing. So this is a later picture. But in the beginning, we were just starting out and we had just invented the molecule, and we're having breakfast at a restaurant, talking about the adventure we just had. And then at the table next to us, there was a guy who runs a rafting operation on the same river as us. And so he overhears that and says, "Hey, so you guys are tubing on the Nicola?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, are you guys wearing helmets?" "No." And then he says, "But you are wearing life jackets." And I said, "We should be writing this stuff down. This is gold." All right, so how do you be daring to the extreme as a UBC engineer? There's a number of ways, but it all comes back to using the education that you had. So like everyone in this room, I took Physics 170, and I can analyze the force in a rope. So by this time, I had harnesses and ropes, and I decided, let's just jump off a bridge. So I took the force that I found on the rope, I multiplied that by a safety factor of 10 or 20, and then I multiplied that by 3 because I built a system that has 3 independent paths between you and the bridge. So that means that any 2 components can fail simultaneously and you're still okay. Your harness can disintegrate, the main chain breaks. You're still connected to the bridge. So it's pretty easy to access the top. And so what we did is I put a chain around the main thing, and then I attached a rope and a backup rope to that. That was hooked up to a bungee cord to absorb any shock. The bungee cord itself was also backed up. And then we have a return rope that pulls you up that was tied around you independently of everything. Yeah, so that's my friend Pete. So, if your mom asks you, would you jump off a bridge just because your friends do? And you say no, then you should maybe think that you're hanging out with the wrong friends. Okay, last one. So how do you be self-expressive to the extreme as a UBC engineer? Now, self-expression just means being yourself. Express yourself, whatever is inside you. So there's a number of ways to do that. So one way that I found was Burning Man. So probably most of you know what Burning Man is. Are there any burners in the crowd? Not yet. Okay, so a lot of people think that Burning Man is a hedonistic, drug-fueled orgy full of weirdos. But it's more than that. So Burning Man is a temporary city of 70,000 people built in an inhospitable desert. And the only people that can build a city is who? Engineers. Engineers build Burning Man. So I met the first burners at an event I went to, and then a few people came up to me and they said, "Hey, yo, you're an engineer, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Do you want to help us build part of the temple for Burning Man?" And I said, "Yeah." So what we were building was a lotus flower egg that opened and closed at dusk and dawn inside the temple. So the temple is something that burns on the Sunday night. They burn the man on Saturday. And the temple is a much more solemn affair. So this year, or that year, we built this. So this is the temple. So my thing is inside one of the outside towers. So when this was built, this was the largest freestanding wooden structure ever built. It was built on the floor of the desert, freestanding. And it held the title of largest freestanding wooden structure ever built until we burned it. All right. So, in conclusion, my intention here was to inspire you, show you what's possible. And so the way that I close this presentation is the same way that I closed my spew and the slipstream. If you take one thing you've learned here with you for the rest of your life, let it be this. You will always be a UBC engineer. The UBC engineers do the impossible, sometimes twice in a night. In your future, oh yeah, sometimes just for the fun of it. In the future, you too can do whatever you want, if you want it or not. See, I eventually graduated. If I can do that, there's no limit to what you can do. Hugs and kisses, yo. Okay, thank you.